Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I am going to share this really quick on my page just so I can reach more. So if you're joining me, please tell me where you are from because I would love to know because today's topic is going to make a difference on where you live. So I want to know where you live. All right, share to a page. I am sharing this to my page. Good morning, Denise. Good morning. How are you? So make sure you share this as well because this topic has been coming up in all of the groups that I'm in for hairstylists. So this is nothing new. This has been going on for a long time, but things are really rapidly changing, and it's really important to know this information. Good morning, Stormy. Good morning, Heather. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Brittany. Long time no see. I skipped last Monday because I was coming back from Miami, so I feel like this has been way too long in between sessions. So tell me where you're from. Tell me if this is the first time you've watched any of the videos from this series because this is the 5th one that I've done. The first one I talked about diversion, which is a big topic right now in the industry. Week 2 I talked about the channels of distribution and how that is rapidly changing. I talked about eBay and Amazon and manufacturers going right for the customer. They're bypassing the salons. And I do have to tell you, I did put an update on that post because I wanted to share with you guys what the company that I actually promote is doing. They actually got 99% of all of the products that I promote off of eBay and Amazon. They are one of the only companies that I know that are taking it seriously and actually removing the products and taking people to court. And other companies are going right to Amazon. They're actually like putting their products right on Amazon, and they're saying, "Oh, this is the next step to, combating this issue." I'm sorry, but it is not. If your company is putting all of the products right on Amazon, what is that going to do for you? That money is now out of your pocket. So don't take that as an answer because that's not okay with me. I don't know about you guys. So that's a huge one. And then the 3rd week I talked about chair rental or booth rental versus employee, which, again, that's evolved quite a bit over the last 40 years. And then the 4th week I talked about the Uberization. I love that word, the Uberization of the industry. And I talked about Dry Bar and Glam Squad and, those type of businesses that are popping up everywhere. So that's really affecting those small salons and even the larger salons too. So I talked all about that. So if you missed them, go back and you can find them on my timeline. I also have blog posts. So if you go to leerader.com, you can actually see my blog posts where I put all of my notes in there, and then I also have the video too. So make sure you share this information because every single day in all of my pro groups that I'm in, these are the topics that everybody's talking about, and people are not sure how to deal with it or what to do about it. And my whole goal is to kind of wake people up and make them realize that these things are happening and you're either going to evolve with it or it's going to cause you a lot of trouble down the road. Even if you're just a stylist or a booth rental or a chair rental or a salon owner or a manager or an esthetician or a massage therapist, I don't care like what you are in the industry, even as a client, these are the things that are going to affect you. So that's why I started this series. I've been in the beauty industry for 23 years. I have seen it evolve. I see it evolve. And now my passion is to really help other professionals in any way that I can. I work with salons. I work with cosmetologists. I work with estheticians. I work with makeup artists. I work with all sorts of different people. I am now a national educator, so I do travel around and educate. Never thought I would do that, but I absolutely love it. And my passion, I grew up with the beauty industry. It's my passion. So if you're wondering, how you can get ahead of things and stay with the evolution and make it profitable for you, that's what I do for people. So I'm not a salon rep. I'm actually a consultant, and whatever you have going on, I look at that and see what can we do to make it more profitable. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But today what we're talking about is the deregulation of our industry. Now, it depends what state you're in. Every state is different as far as licensing, schooling, what professions fall under the licenses. Every single state is different. Some are more strict than others. Like in Wisconsin, for example, you have to be licensed to touch, whether it's makeup, whether it's hair, whether it's, just even styling hair. You have to be licensed to touch and charge. Some states you don't have to be licensed to be a makeup artist. In Wisconsin you do. But I'm going to talk about the changes to that. So, if you're working behind the chair a lot of hours, you're probably not thinking about this kind of stuff. In fact, it's actually the industry, our industry, the beauty industry, has been in the spotlight for quite some time. And many states are actually seeking to deregulate cosmetology licenses. So what that means is that anyone who wanted to be a hairstylist could simply be one without any training or requirements. There is a new coalition. It's founded part by the Professional Beauty Association, which I am a member of, and they're actually working on ways to keep the industry professional and keep clients safe behind the chair. But they do realize that changes need to be made. So I'm going to share with you what changes have been being made in my state and another state, and I want to hear from you guys too. Like, do you know what's going on in your state? Have you looked it up? Have you seen what's going on? Because it's going to affect everybody. So what does deregulation mean? All right, so here's what a state is going to be without a cosmetology license. Anyone that wants to do hair or wants to open up a salon can do so. There's no obligation to train the people that work there. There's also no incentive for manufacturers to maintain a high quality level of education, which I talked about with the changes of distribution, with diversion. That's really changed anyway, but there's really no guarantee for the client or the hairstylist safety. Now, I will say, I posted something when my state made a new law, and I had a lot of people comment. They're like, well, what's the big deal? So anyone can, cut hair in their kitchen or style hair. Think about the chemicals that hairstylists use. Think about the diseases that can be spread. That's kind of where I'm coming from with things. It's not just people just styling and cutting hair. I mean, it's definitely more than that. Even the nail, if you look at people doing nails, all the things, not only fungus and things that you can get, but hepatitis and HIV, and there's a lot of different things that can be spread. So that's kind of where I'm coming back from. All right, so it really does make the hours or even years that licensed hairstylists have spent on education and training irrelevant. Okay, so a lot of hairstylists and other professionals are like, what about all the schooling that I had and all the things that I learned, and so that education's just out the door. So why is this happening? All right, and I see that Stormy, let's see, in New Mexico you don't have to have a license to do makeup, but you do have to touch, or for touching hair. Yeah, and that's actually quite a few states as well. So if anyone else is in another state, let me know what your licensing is. So why is this happening? Non-governmental agencies or organizations are pushing the idea broadly that licensing for a variety of professionals, it's not just hairstylists, is unnecessary. All right, so these groups argue that licenses are artificial barriers to entering the workforce. Okay, so cosmetology licenses are just being wrapped up into the argument, and it is a lot of other professions. So I know I had people reach out to me that are all different professions, and they're like, yeah, it's across the board. It's not just for cosmetology. So what's going on in Arizona right now? So I know some of you that I am connected with in Arizona probably know that this is going on. But a bill to deregulate hairstyling was introduced, and as it stands, anyone styling hair in the state has to be licensed right now. But there's at least one Republican that's really trying to change that. So it all stems from the popular chain Dry Bar. So if you did not watch my last video, I actually talked about the disruption that Dry Bar is having, and Glam Squad and those type of businesses that are popping up. They offer blowouts and styling, but if you also watch my video, you'll see that they're actually going to be adding more services to their menu, which I find interesting, right? That they're trying to change it, because as it stands now, you have to have a license to work there. But if they change that, they can hire more people, keep their prices down, because that's what they're doing, is they're keeping the prices really low so that clients come there, which is going to affect salons, right? And then they're also, by doing that, they're probably going to start with that, and what I think is they're going to sort of deregulate it totally. Usually what they'll do is they'll start with a little bit, and then when people aren't, when they're concentrated on that, then they'll start passing other things. So that's what's happening in Arizona. I'm just using Arizona and Wisconsin as an example, because those are the states that I've done research on. So some salon professionals are freaked out by that, because they're like, this is a terrible move for the industry. I mean, how are they going to regulate if they are sanitizing properly, if they're keeping client safety up to par? That's going to affect people. It's also going to affect the stylists that are licensed and trying to make a profitable business, because the dry bars are just going to pop up even more. So that's going to be less clients coming through their door. Because watch my series. I can't go over all of it in every single episode, which is why I'm breaking this up. Okay, so what happened here in Wisconsin? So I have to say, this kind of snuck up on me. I just never thought that it would pass in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is was one of the stricter states as far as licensing, like I said earlier. We always had, like when I went to school 23 years ago, I know, we needed 1,800 hours of education in a licensed cosmetology school. What they did was, now they dropped that down to 1,550 training hours in not less than 10 months. I don't know what the time frame was when I went, but it was basically when you got those hours in, you could take your state board exam and pass or fail. So they also eliminated 4,000-hour practice requirement for cosmetologists, barbers, esthetician, and manicurists who have a license in good standing in another state, and they just replaced it with a 1-hour class. I think that's probably a good thing. That's part of them trying to, like, across the board, just make the hours similar per state, because if somebody is moving here from a different state that had less hours, they usually would have to go back to school and make up those hours, or have worked a certain amount of hours before they could get licensed in Wisconsin. So they changed that. They also eliminated continuing education requirements, except as part of a disciplinary decision. So we never used to have continuing education, but then I don't even know how many years ago it was. They're like, you know what, we're going to start, requiring continuing education, which I thought was maybe good, but then they were offering just like you had to take these 2 different courses, and it was the same every 2 years to renew your license. It was all about licenses, or licensing laws, regulation, sanitary disinfection information, and it was pretty boring. I know a lot of other states, they require, or even different professions, they require continuing education, but you can kind of pick and choose like what you want to take for that. So now they are totally getting rid of all continuing education. I will post actually a blog post I did on disinfection and sanitization, especially for makeup artists, because even licensed professionals, lately I've been seeing some really scary stuff. People double dipping, people not sanitizing things in between clients, not cleaning their brushes properly, not spraying their palettes, not sanitizing their hands in between clients. I mean, this was even going on with licensed professionals. So I'm like scared that that's even going to get worse now that they don't require any of that. So I'm going to post that later today because it's a good read for anybody that's in the industry at all. All right, squirrel, and I got to get back on track here. The other thing that they have done is they now allow licensed practitioners under specified conditions to practice outside a licensed establishment. So before the law, we actually couldn't, or before they changed the law, we couldn't technically do on-site weddings. Everybody did. I mean, I'm not going to throw people under the bus, but obviously if a bride is on location and they want you to come to do their makeup and their hair, people would do it. Technically, they weren't supposed to in the state of Wisconsin because it wasn't in a licensed establishment. So now they're saying there are stipulations where you can go and do that. So that has changed. I don't know, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, people were doing it anyway, so at least they're doing it legally now. Okay, the other thing is they eliminated the manager license and all the requirements for an instructor license. So there are no longer managers in the state of Wisconsin, cosmetology managers. So all we have now is a cosmetology license and a barbering license. They used to be combined. It was cosmetology and barbering, but they actually separated it a few years ago. So people can just go to school for barbering, and people can go to school for cosmetology. Now, for you clients that are watching, cosmetology means that you are taught hair, skin, nails. So you can do facials, you can do makeup, you can do artificial nails, you can do pedicures, you can do all aspects of hair. Although barbers can actually color hair and use chemicals as well. So they're just not licensed to do some of the other things with skin. Hi Trish, thanks for joining me. Okay, so the other one that I said is they eliminated instructor licenses. So before you actually had to get a specific license for being an instructor in a beauty school, which means that you had to take a test, I believe, to make sure that, or you had to have a certain amount of hours. Now there's no instructor's license. So what that means is beauty schools or beauty colleges or whatever you want to call it can actually hire anybody that they want to teach their students. So they're not going to regulate that at all. So if you are thinking about going to school for cosmetology, you may want to ask what requirements or what criteria they have for their instructors, because they don't have to be licensed anymore. They can just hire whoever. And there was a beauty school in Wisconsin that was really for this change because, I don't know, they probably want to hire anybody, just anybody, and pay them less, I'm assuming. I don't know what the reason was for that, but that kind of scares me a little bit. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Tell me what you think. The other thing with eliminating the manager's license is before this change, if you owned a salon, you had to have a manager on duty if there was either an apprentice on staff or somebody that just graduated from cosmetology school that isn't, that has their temporary license, okay? So what was great about it was the manager that was licensed a manager had a certain amount of hours working in a salon and also passed a test that proved that they knew the different laws and different sanitization, and also just really how to, if scary things happen with an unlicensed professional or a temporary licensed professional, especially with color or whatever, usually the manager, they had experience, so they would know how to supervise that or how to fix it. I'm not gonna lie, I've seen a lot of things go on in the salon. So it was always nice because when you're right out of school, you can start working in the salon right away under this temporary permit, because sometimes it takes you time to take your state board exam. There's a written exam and there's a practical exam in Wisconsin anyway. So sometimes, you know, they're scheduled far out and you can't take it. So you have a certain amount of time to do that. So as an apprentice, you can be an apprentice with no supervision at this point because there's no manager's license. So technically, you could be there by yourself at this point. Before, you had to have a manager on duty that was there to help you, to teach you, to mentor you in the profession, which that scares me. I know, like, Beth is on here and Kim is on here. You guys are professionals in my state, so how does that make you feel? So as a client, that's scary for me. Like, if you're a client and you're just going to a salon and maybe it's a new salon and you haven't been there before, like, maybe you should ask the question, like, how long have you been, you know, in the industry? Because they could be potentially right out of school, and when you do graduate school, you don't always really learn everything and know everything. You only learn so much in school, especially now that they, like, decrease the amount of hours that you need to graduate. So when it comes to coloring and chemicals and relaxing hair and perming hair or even straightening hair, whatever it is that you're doing, I've seen some really scary stuff happen. I've seen pictures of people with second and third degree burns on their scalp from professionals, not just non-professionals, using these chemicals and not knowing correctly how to use them. So a haircut, you know, you can usually always fix. Well, I shouldn't say usually always. I've seen some that you can't fix. But, like, seriously, you guys, this is, like, scary to me. Whoa. So there's no more manager's licenses. So you could just start working in the salon without a manager on duty. Okay, so personally, I think it's a real shame that they are deregulating this and that there are so little laws governing stylists, nails, skin. It's really doing a disservice for the whole industry, and the bottom line, the public and clients are not going to be protected. Exactly. If there are not well-trained educators. I totally agree with you, Valerie, and that's what's really scary is it's going to affect everybody. It's also going to just bring down the quality, I'm afraid. You know, on the other hand, I will say that they had cut so many of the people working for the state to help sort of support, you know, going into salons and checking them. And so there weren't many. So the only times that they would come into a salon would be if somebody complained, you know, if they saw something pretty bad, and then they would come in and fine them or whatever. Having those establishment licenses, you know, it did actually have, then they have a list of, like, you know, who has an establishment. In the state of Wisconsin, if you rent a chair or if you were booth rental, you had to have an establishment license and you had to have a manager's license. Well, now there's no more manager's license, so anyone can, you know, rent a chair and have booth rental, which, you know what, I mean, most of them are usually seasoned in the industry, so, you know, I mean, if they want to do that, they can do it. Beth says, unfortunately, the average client has no idea what this means and what questions to even ask. I agree with that, and that's why I'm doing this on my normal page, because I know I have clients watching this, and I know that I have pros watching this. So this is something that really affects everybody. So Kim says, yeah, I wasn't comfortable with color until about 5 years in. I know. Even like professionals that have been in the industry for like a long time, gosh, sorry about my phone's ringing, I'm getting text messages, but even people that have been doing hair for a long time, some of them don't even like know how to do color correcting and things like that. So that's really scary. It's just going to be less regulated. So what I'm worried about is they start like passing these like little things and then they slowly sort of change. So coming from a state that was really strict that now has really changed a lot in just one bill, who knows what's going to be next? And I think that's why a lot of stylists and professionals are afraid, because they're like, what next? What does this mean? What do I do about it? So there is, like I said, there is a coalition working for this, but I encourage all of you to do some research on your state, and just to see what is happening or what has happened, or how can you do something if you want to. There are people that are lobbying the state, and again, it depends what state you're in. But I did mention that there is a coalition through the PBA, what are they working for? This is what they're trying to do, is they are trying to allow licensed practitioners under specified, the coalition is laying down 5 points that would streamline the licensing process. So the first one would be license mobility. And like I said earlier, this would be so hairstylists who leave the industry because they move to a new state and it's really hard for them to get licensed, they're going to pass, or they're pushing to pass, that your license travels with you. So as long as you're licensed in one state and in good standing, they want you to be able to go to different states and be able to practice. And I know there's a lot of people whose husbands are maybe in the military that move from state to state. They're trying to get it where it's just like a nationwide thing. So, you know what? And maybe they would just need to take a test just to make sure that they know, what they're doing. So that's one of the things they're trying to do. The second thing they're trying to do is get that consistent number of hours for cosmetology schools across the U.S. So some states require 1,000 hours, some states require all the way up to 2,300 hours. So choosing one standard across all states will make it easier, obviously, for students to become licensed. So the coalition is recommending a standard of 1,000 hours to be licensed, but makes it clear that you can continue to train for longer if you desire. Now, 1,000 hours, that's not a lot. That's kind of scary to me. I kind of would like it to be more, but maybe that's because I was licensed at more. I don't know. But again, even at the hours that I went to school, I felt that I learned a lot out of school. But now, without there being the managers or the people overseeing the new people, I don't know, that just scares me. Okay, number 3 is they're going to try to get a standardized national test to make sure that your license can travel with you from state to state. And there needs to be a standard test, really, that everyone seeking a cosmetology license must take to get that license that would travel. Okay, so a standard test can also increase client confidence. Knowing that every cosmetologist they see is held to the same national standard is powerful. And I know that they have that through massage therapy. You can actually get nationally certified. So why not make a national certification for cosmetology? I mean, maybe that would be, something good, because then clients could ask for that. Are you nationally certified with the whatever they do that? The fourth thing they're trying to do is pre-graduate testing. So by requiring all cosmetology students to take the pre-graduate test, it allows them to be licensed immediately upon graduation so they can start working right away. So that would, you wouldn't have to wait months down the road to do your practical and written exam if they did that. 5 is continuing education requirements. So while some states have these requirements, the coalition will continue to ensure that stylists are required to participate in education throughout their careers. So as a hairstylist, you know that it's crucial to stay up to date with the latest tools, chemicals, and trends. So not only to produce your best work, but also to keep your clients safe. And as a client, that's a good thing too, right? I think some continuing education is good. In Wisconsin, we have to renew our license every 2 years. So why not have where you have to just take X amount of hours of continuing education? It can be like anything that you want, because then at least you know that someone just hasn't been practicing hair for 20 years and has had absolutely no continuing education. Because there's a lot of people that do that. Like they're like kitchen hairstylists or whatever, where they're just like, and they have their license so they can get some of these chemicals that not everyone can get, but they may not really know how to use them and shouldn't be using them. So I'm for continuing education. It would maybe be hard to regulate, like as far as what classes would be okay to take, but why not just like any class? I mean, why not just, as long as they are an actual instructor or some kind of a national educator, reputable, maybe that has some type of certificate. I don't know how they would do that. But I love learning. I go to continuing education quarterly, and I'm an educator, but I still get that continuing education because things are changing. It's fun for me to learn. That's one of the reasons why I love this industry so much, is because I don't get bored. There's always something to learn. So even if it's not required, I really do encourage all of the pros out there to continue to get that education. All right, so what can you do as a professional? You know, like I said, stay on top of the licensure fight in your state. So Google it, check it out, talk to other professionals in your state just to find out what is going on. Have you heard anything? Like I said, some of these things are being done kind of under the radar. So do a little bit more research, reach out to, usually you can kind of network with people and find out like, hey, do you know anybody that is involved in this? Because in numbers, I think that anybody can do anything if you've got the numbers as far as people's voices. You can also go be a member of the PBA, and they actually have where you can sign up for updates from any kind of whatever they send out periodically. They also do, if you go to Behind the Chair, they do articles on there as well, where they're talking about some of this. And you can also become a state captain and take action now. So if you're like really passionate about it, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do something, like start something. You know, because someone has to, right? Someone has to step up and do that. So stay in touch with your state and local cosmetology groups. Maybe reach out to them and just be like, hey, you know, I want to, you know, be on the board that's deciding these things or proposing these things. You know, take action. But I am for our profession. I do love to train people who want to be in the profession. So, you know, I do feel like I think it would be awesome, obviously, to have just even like somewhat of a license for makeup artistry, because I do work with a lot of people that they're like, you know what, I want to do makeup, but I don't want to do hair. I don't want to be an esthetician. I don't want to, and like right now to do makeup in my state, you either have to be a licensed esthetician or a licensed cosmetologist. So sometimes they're like, I don't want to go to school for all of that stuff. I just want to do makeup. I don't know. I think it would be cool just to have a makeup license or a makeup artistry or a freelance license, because then at least they could require them to take those classes to learn how to sanitize. Because like I said, oh my gosh, the stuff I've been seeing lately, it's just scary to me. I'm like, if you see the eye infections people can get from people not sanitizing things properly, I mean, just Google it. If you see the amount of things that can happen, it's disgusting. And I can't believe that pros are just like, oh, they just double dip and concealer and put it on, or they just use like felt tip eyeliners on the eye. And I mean, it's just like, so I'm going to post that article because we need, and share it please, because as professionals, we need to make sure that we're doing that. And even if a non-professional is doing makeup and they read it and they start sanitizing, then my job is, you know, done a little bit better, because it freaks me out. So the whole point of this series is just to really bring this to your attention. I started it because I read an article and it was actually titled "The Death of the Professional Industry." I don't think it's the death of the industry. I think it's the evolution of the industry. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to either stay ahead, evolve with it, like I said earlier, and just be aware. Just being aware and educating yourself on what's going on and what you can potentially do just to keep your business afloat. whether you're independent, whether you own a salon, whatever it is, whether you're an educator like me, there's things that you can do. So next week, are you guys ready for this one? I thought about this really hard. I'm like, okay, what should I do next week? Because I'm just having fun with this and I could just keep going on and on and on. And I don't know how many of these you guys are going to watch. But what I want to talk about is the makeup industry. So I touched on it a little bit today, but like what I want to talk about is the differences. There's so many different spectrums when it comes to the makeup industry. And so I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about the differences, and I want to talk about how you can position yourself with that and how you can capitalize from it, because makeup and even skincare, they're both billion-dollar industries. So a lot of salons I work with, they're like, I love makeup, but there really aren't a lot of makeup lines that I have found that are not found in the stores. And now with Jane Iredale, because if you watched my my video on diversion or distribution, I'm not sure which one it was in, Jane Iredale is now, it went right to the department stores, which that used to be an exclusive salon and spa makeup line. So that's what's kind of happening. So a lot of salons are finding it hard to find lines that are professional quality that they can retail that aren't found anywhere else. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum where you've got makeup lines like MAC or whatever that they will give you a pro discount, but they don't want you to retail it. So I'm going to talk about that. So make sure you join me next Monday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and let me know what you liked about today, and be sure to share it, and I will see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.